The flickering gaslights of Atlanta cast long, dancing shadows across cobblestone streets. It's a chilly night in 1911. A young woman, Emma Lou Sharp, walks briskly, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the silence. She clutches her purse, hurrying home after a long day of work. A rustle in the alley beside her. She quickens her pace, but the footsteps behind her are faster. A shadow detaches from the wall and a hand clamps over her mouth. Her scream is swallowed by the indifferent city night. The next morning, her body is found, her throat slashed. She is the first, but she will not be the last. Welcome to the unsettling, forgotten case of the Atlanta Ripper. Between 1911 and 1915, a predator haunted the streets of Atlanta, Georgia, leaving a trail of at least 15 and possibly as many as 25 victims. This isn't just a story about a killer. It's a story about a city that chose to look away. In the early 1910s, Atlanta was a city of stark contrasts, a place of burgeoning industry and deeply entrenched racial divides. It was a city still healing from the violent race riot of 1906, and tensions simmered just beneath the surface. It was in this volatile atmosphere that the murders began. The victims were almost all black women, many of them cooks or domestic workers, attacked as they made their lonely journey home from their jobs in the city's wealthier white neighborhoods. The pattern was terrifyingly consistent. The attacker would strike from the shadows using a knife to slash the victim's throat. Many also suffered brutal head trauma from a heavy, blunt object. The bodies were often left deliberately posed, a chilling signature that hinted at a single organized killer. Newspapers, eager to sell copies, sensationalized the attacks. They were the ones who coined the name that struck fear into the heart of the community: the Atlanta Ripper, a deliberate echo of London's infamous Jack the Ripper. Headlines screamed of a mysterious slayer and a fiend loose on the streets. For the black community, this wasn't just news, it was a terrifying reality. The night, once a time for rest, became a source of urban dread. Women began walking in groups, armed with whatever they could find for protection, knowing that the authorities were unlikely to help. So, where were the police? This is where the story shifts from a simple true crime tale to a chilling account of systemic failure. The Atlanta police force, and the city's white leadership, publicly and repeatedly denied the existence of a serial killer. Why? Admitting that a predator was methodically targeting and murdering black women would have been an admission of their failure to protect all citizens. It would have stoked racial tensions and contradicted the carefully crafted image of Atlanta as a modern, progressive southern city. To them, the lives of these women were inconvenient truths, better swept under the rug than investigated. Each murder was treated as an isolated incident, a routine crime in a dangerous part of town. This deliberate fragmentation of the case was the killer's greatest asset. With no coordinated investigation, no task force, and no real effort to connect the dots, the Ripper was essentially given a license to kill. Over the years, several suspects were arrested, but the evidence was always flimsy, and the charges never stuck. Men were picked up based on vague descriptions or because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time. In one instance, a man named Henry Huff was indicted, but the case against him crumbled, and he was released. With each failed arrest, the police seemed more interested in creating the illusion of progress than in finding the actual culprit. This cycle of arrest and release only deepened the community's distrust and fear. The message was clear: you are on your own. Some investigators at the time, and historians since, have floated the theory of a copycat phenomenon. They suggest that the intense media coverage might have inspired multiple individuals to commit similar crimes, mimicking the Ripper's brutal methods. While possible, modern criminal profilers find this less likely. The consistency in victimology, primarily black women walking home from work, and the specific ritualistic nature of the murders, particularly the throat slashing combined with blunt force trauma, points strongly toward a single offender. A behavioral analysis suggests a killer who was comfortable moving through both black and white neighborhoods, someone who knew the city's rhythms and the vulnerabilities of his victims. He was likely a white man, as a black man would have drawn far too much attention in the segregated neighborhoods where the attacks often occurred. The timeline of the attacks is also telling. The murders appeared in clusters with periods of inactivity in between. This could suggest a killer who was transient, or perhaps someone who was periodically incarcerated for other minor offenses, only to be released and kill again. The investigative failures of the time mean we'll never know. The files are gone, the evidence lost, the voices of the victims silenced first by their killer, and then by the city meant to protect them. By 1915, the murders seemed to stop as suddenly as they had begun. No one was ever convicted. No one was ever held responsible. The Atlanta Ripper simply vanished, fading from the headlines and then from public memory altogether. He was protected by the silence of a society that deemed his victims unworthy of justice. The terror he inflicted on Atlanta's black community became a buried footnote in the city's history. This forgotten chapter tells us that the greatest horror isn't always the monster hiding in the dark. Sometimes it's the darkness in a system that refuses to see, a system that decides whose lives matter and whose can be forgotten. For the women murdered by the Atlanta Ripper, justice didn't fail them. Justice never even showed up. Thank you for joining us to uncover this story. For more true cases the world has tried to bury, make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss our next investigation. Stay safe out there.